Hello, and welcome to my course, which is Money Matters, Dollars and Cents. My name is Lauren Muir, and this is my project for 5510 in the summer of 2018. I have created a course meant for high school learners about digital literacy. I'm sorry, not digital literacy, financial literacy. And the learning theory used for this course was a constructivist approach with a focus on best practices in an e-learning environment. So what I've kind of found is that it's really easy to think that an online course can be learner-centered because you're removing the educator from the learning environment. You're physically removing that educator from the learning environment. And it can be easy to think that just because the learner is responsible for their own learning, that it's learner-centered, and that's not always the case. It still takes a lot of pedagogy and a lot of thoughtful design in order to still create a learner-centered environment. Next, we have, what does this class accomplish? So like I said, I really found a need with my learners that I have in my professional environment where they were 16, 17, 18 years old and they did not have a bank account. They would go and they would get their checks cashed at check cashing services or at Walmart and stuff like that, and just walk around with cash and just, spend it all until it was gone. So I really wanted to create a financial literacy course that kind of walked them through the responsibilities that they were going to have as somebody who is earning an income and being a contributing member to society. It's meant for all learners grades 9 through 12 because pretty much at 15 you can start working. It can be more difficult to find a job, but you can work. So I wanted it to be available to any learner who was able to have a job. This course was technically designed for an alternative placement high school, a school environment where learners are trying to catch up on credits or maybe graduate early. Learners in this environment might have been hospitalized, they might be teenage parents, they might suffer from severe anxiety, or they may just want to, leave high school behind them and move on to the next thing. But either way, they are trying to work through their high school courses very, very quickly. So this is a course that's designed to be done in 3 weeks, which is pretty quick, but trust me, they can do it. Learners finish their courses at their own pace. So this isn't something where I would be enrolling a whole bunch of learners at once and they would be moving through the content together. They're all moving through at their own pace. So there's really no set due dates, but there are guidelines and things in place to try to help them get through the course as quickly as possible. How will I share my learning? So throughout this course, learners will be assessed by their blog posts and discussion board entries. They have some instances where they have to create a multimedia product, specifically a video presentation or an infographic. There are quizzes, and there is research, and there's also a progressive and culminating research project at the end where they're kind of taking bits and pieces from what they've learned throughout their modules, and they're creating their own digital presentation. Like I said, since students move through this course at their own pace, there is no predetermined due date for anything, but what I have is an assignment calendar, which basically tells them which lessons I would want them to complete by the week and the day. So like week 1, day 1, first day of class, you should have these 2 lessons done. The next day, you should have these 2 lessons done, and so on and so forth. And if you follow that pattern through the course, you should be done on time week 3, day 5. Then if we go back to the home, this is where I had basically my design document is sectioned out throughout these courses. Throughout those little modules right there. And then right here, I do have my job aid, my design document, and my references attached. Now my references are also in my design document, but I thought this might be an easy place to look at them as well. So right here, I'm going to come over here to edit. And you can see right here, this says complete all items. This one says complete all items, and it also lists the prerequisites for the income as the career and financial planning unit. So let's take a look at what that kind of looks like. Actually, we'll do it down here. So I have this set up so that learners must complete all of the requirements in the course and that they must move through the course in sequential order. The course was designed with intention. I want the learners to go through it with that same intention. I did not want them going in and cherry picking what they thought was going to be the easiest modules to do, because that doesn't really do anything to build learning or build understanding. So I wanted to make sure that they went through it exactly how I wanted them to go through it. And I basically have each module, the prerequisite is the previous module. So I think that that will keep them from jumping around from module to module. So with career and financial planning, at the beginning of every single module, I did end up putting the learning goals and objectives again and have it set up so that they have to view it, because I did want them to be aware of what it was that they were going to be learning. I think that having that awareness of what you're learning helps you to kind of identify that content a little bit easier. They go through the career and financial planning. So we have them do financial planning, career planning, identifying trends in the job market, discovering what net worth actually means, establish their own career and financial goals, and then participate in a discussion. And I understand that since some of these learners aren't always going through the same course at the same time, that the discussion may not get responded to, but I think that there is still value in seeing what maybe past people have said. It's kind of like participating in a forum. Maybe you don't really get to engage as much, but you can still see and follow the discussion. With income, we have identified different sources of income. And basically, the difference between earned income and passive income or investments and stuff like that. We've got gross pay versus net pay, because that is a painful realization that a lot of people end up having whenever they get that first paycheck. And then benefits and how those work. Then we get into budgets and spending, which is a bit of a gnarly module here. But we do have a blog for budgets, and then we have a budget activity, and it is a pretty big activity that they're going to be going through. Let me go ahead. They have a section on savings, and then they also have a section on consuming. I've found personally that a lot of my learners tend to have issues between converting percents to decimals and vice versa. So I do have a little optional video there for them if they need it. It's not necessarily part of the lesson if they don't, but it's there for intervention purposes. So we have a tipping practice. We have another quiz for sales tax and another quiz for discounts. And we also have an activity on smart shopping. Learners are given the task of purchasing a laptop here, and they were kind of given some requirements of what the laptop needed to be able to do, and then we wanted them to identify the cost of the laptop and which laptop they were going to buy based on the specs of the laptop and the deal that they get. So that is their smart shopping project. Then we go over to banking. We have the importance of banking and having a bank, how to select a bank. Originally, I did have a checking and savings account section here, but I realized that the way that I kind of built the rest of these, it really kind of covered checking and savings. So I went ahead and I left it for now, but I do have it hidden from the students so they wouldn't see it. because I found that so many learners had never used a debit card before or used an ATM machine before, I went ahead and did create a section on debit cards, and it does take them through a simulation of how to use a debit card in an ATM machine and how to use a debit card at a store. So those are some pretty awesome simulations that I was able to find. And then other banking options, whether you choose to do an online only bank, mobile banking, something like that. Your bank does not have to be brick and mortar. You can do an online bank. We come over here to taxes. So we have a tax essentials, kind of takes you through the basics of your taxes. We do have a FICA, which is the Medicare and Social Security tax section, and we kind of go through how that works and what FICA is, who it helps, why it helps, and what your money goes to. We also talk about income tax and what your income tax might be in your state. Maybe you're not planning on living in Texas, so you could definitely take another state's perspective in this lesson if you wanted to, but takes you through the national income tax and state income tax if you have it. And then everybody's favorite right here, tax returns. So we actually go through a tax return activity here. Right here with the taxes section, we do have some simulations with filling out W-2s and filling out tax returns and all those things that can be pretty intimidating, but are pretty easy to do yourself. Our last module here is an insurance module, which can be a pretty important one. We go through an auto insurance module, which takes them through deductible and coverage limits, minimum coverage and what minimum coverage means, what's required for minimum coverage, is minimum coverage best, and then also the factors, what contributes to what your insurance company says that you have to pay for your premium. Is it fair? Is it right? Stuff like that. And then we do have an insurance shopping simulation where we have them go through a couple of different insurance companies to price out what's offered to them, what the price point is, have them pick out an insurance company and then justify their reasoning. We have a health insurance section where we, since health insurance is so dynamic depending on where you work, it really kind of focused more on the government side of the health insurance from healthcare.gov and what they may or may not have to do if they find themselves without employer-provided healthcare insurance. And then we also go over warranties, what warranties are, when they're worth it, when they're not, and calculating warranty situations. Their final project here is going to be a culmination of their modules. And what we want them to do is to take some, when we've highlighted here exactly where these lessons come from, but the research and the planning that they have done in these previous modules, and we want them to bring it all together and create a digital portfolio, preferably using Google Sites. They can use something else if they would like, but create a portfolio that demonstrates their research and their learning. You know, we have them using their infographics, their graphic organizers, their research that they've done, their shopping projects, and also creating a blog post that revisits their very first one and then explains how their learning has been molded, maybe what they thought they knew versus what they know now, and shares their current thoughts on financial literacy. So that would be the ending project here. I definitely tried to provide all my learning in a way that really kind of developed more than just kind of dumped information in their head that they would have, you know, that they could discharge very quickly. I wanted everything to be something where they really had to think and justify their reasoning and think about why this is important, why do I need this, and hopefully lead that into some more deeper thinking, like, you know, with credit and credit scores and credit cards and investments and stuff like that. I wanted this to be a stepping stone for more complex financial literacy. If you ever have any feedback for my course, I'm more than happy to take it. Like I said, right here, I do have an instructor contact information that does link to my email. My email is right here. I would love to hear from you if you have any kind of feedback for me. I'm really excited to get to use this with my learners. Thank you so much.